Hi, Yoshi Monica here. In this video, it's all about the Gluteus Medius and the Gluteus Minimus. We will talk about the anatomy and function and what makes those two muscles unique. And along the way, we give you a bunch of exercises you can choose from for your next workout. Let's talk about the anatomy and function of the Gluteus Medius and Gluteus Minimus. The Gluteus Medius is a fan-shaped muscle that originates alongside the lateral surface, so more towards the outside of the ilium, the pelvis. And because it's located right below the iliac crest, the upper lip of the ilium, the muscle is part of the upper buttocks. The Gluteus Medius forms the middle layer of the gluteal muscles and is partially covered by the Gluteus Maximus, and on the other hand covers the smaller Gluteus Minimus entirely. The Gluteus Minimus, which has a similar function as the Gluteus Medius, is smaller than the medius muscle. It originates on the outer surface of the ilium right below the Gluteus Medius origin. Now, the only difference between those two muscles is that the Gluteus Minimus is functionally slightly stronger in medial rotation, otherwise they're similar in their action. Both muscles start wider on top of the ilium and along the way narrow more and more while they cross the hip joint and insert in the lateral superior aspect of the crater of the femur, which is that knob you can feel when you touch the top of your thigh bone on the outside. Basically, the main functions of both muscles is to abduct the thigh bone at the hip joint, so moving the leg sidewards and away from the midline, and of course to stabilize the pelvis, for example when we run, walk, dance, inline skate or do yoga. However, when we look at the direction and placement of the muscle fibers of the Gluteus Medius and Minimus, we have anterior fibers, middle fibers and posterior fibers. The same structure we find in the deltoid muscles of the shoulders. So the movement of both joints, the shoulder joints and the hip joints, are similar and produced by a specific muscle contraction. Let me explain. A contraction of the anterior fibers of the Gluteus Medius and Minimus results in a flexion and inward rotation of the thigh bone at the hip joint, while a contraction of the middle fibers leads to an abduction, and a contraction of the posterior fibers of the Medius and Minimus performs an extension and outward rotation of the thigh bone at the hip joint. So we could say that the Gluteus Medius and Minimus are the deltoids of the hip joints. And another interesting aspect of those two glute muscles is when the femur is fixed in place, like we see quite often in standing yoga poses or particular techniques in modern dance or martial arts, a contraction of the Gluteus Medius and Minimus helps to tilt the pelvis while at the same time maintaining balance.
We are largely unaware of the Gluteus Medius and Minimus, though they are constantly active and balance the pelvis when we're standing or walking. However, even though those two glute muscles assist us in our daily movements, they might be underdeveloped or unbalanced without a proper workout. So let me give you a few examples that you may not have thought of before, like this one for example. If you like to sit for a long time with your legs crossed, especially when you prefer one side over the other, the Gluteus Medius and Minimus experience a passive stretch and have a hard time to get reactivated because they're simply overstretched. Another example, you want to keep your eye on always starting your leg workout on the same side. We're so used and trained to always start movement on the right side. Just watch your next yoga or fitness class and listen to the cueing of the instructor. Or maybe you can even catch yourself doing this when teaching a class. If you train yourself to switch it up and on a regular basis start on the left side instead, you don't just get the starting energy and strength now on the left side, but you may also improve the body-mind connection by refocusing on the body and the movement. So this is important. If you train your glutes, you want to make sure that the activation of the left and the right side of the glute medius and minimus is completely balanced. A tip you can easily apply, and similar to the example of sitting with your legs crossed, is sleeping on your side. You probably never thought about it before, but when you sleep on your side without having a pillow in between your knees, again, you passively stretch the Gluteus Medius and Minimus. And just think about it. Ideally, you sleep 7 or 8 hours a night. That's a long time to stretch a muscle. So either use a pillow or train yourself to sleep on the back to keep the glutes happy and healthy. And my last example is for runners. While running is great for your cardiovascular system and for the muscles in your lower body, unfortunately, it doesn't do much for the gluteus medius and minimus. You actually need an additional proper training session for the glutes. I see lots of new runners without muscle strength in the legs and glutes, or runners who overdo it because they're training for a marathon, for example, or runners who just start running without a good warm-up, who then develop glute tendon inflammation. And just on the side, buttocks pain is not kind to runners. It will allow you to run to a certain extent and then stop you in your tracks. So let me introduce a few gluteus medius and minimus exercises you can incorporate in your lower body workouts to strengthen the glutes and at the same time maintain a healthy balance.
Now the first exercise I want to show you, you find in physical therapy, but I really believe it's great to put into your warm-up, or when you go to the gym, do it before you use the leg abductor machine. But it only works if you can create a flexion in your hip joints. So, like Monica is doing, sit on a bar stool or on a table or whatever elevated surface you have. Bring your knees to touch, sit straight up and bring your hands in front of you. To isolate and work the medius and minimus, you have to create an internal rotation of the thigh bones by separating your feet. If this is not enough, you can use a book, place a book in between your knees. And if you really want to go for the challenge, keep the book and add a resistance band. Wrap it around your feet or your ankle joints. Now, try 12 to 16 reps. Just make sure that your feet move evenly. If you don't have an elevated surface, you can do the same exercise in a side-lying position. So get comfortable on the floor on your mat, create a flexion in your hip joints, bend your knees slightly and lift your top leg up around hip level. And again, to work the medius and minimus, you have to create an internal and external rotation of the thigh bone at the hip joint. Just make sure the hips are stacked and away from the rib cage.
Our second exercise is a standing abduction of the thigh bone at the hip joint. It's super simple and quite effective if you do it correctly. You can either do it with your own body resistance, use a resistance band, or if you're at the gym, use the cable machine. And this is how you do it. You shift your weight over to one leg, hold on to something for support, pull the belly button in, keep the hips square, and start to abduct the opposite leg 12 to 16 times. And if you want to really get something out of this exercise, add an internal or external rotation to the movement to really hit the anterior and posterior fibers of the gluteus medius and minimus.
Now this exercise, a supported side plank with leg lifts, is a traditional one and you still see it in fitness classes. It's highly effective and actually easy to do. You just have to come from all fours, keep one knee in one hand as a support on the floor, make sure that your hips are stacked on top of each other, and while you lift your leg up and down, create an internal and external rotation of the thigh bone at the hip joint. Repeat this 12 to 16 times and don't forget to switch sides.
Clamps are the one exercise that needs to be on top of your list when it comes to strengthening the glute medius and minimus. So set yourself up on your side, prop yourself up on your forearm without sinking into the shoulder and bring the other hand on top of the hip. Stack the legs, bend the knees and flex the feet. Now simultaneously lift the hips, the knee and the toes of the top leg and lower them back down without touching the floor. Repeat this 12 to 16 times and again, remember to do both sides.
Our fifth exercise is a one-leg bridge. So lie on your back, bring your feet close towards the buttocks, lift one leg up and place your ankle on top of your knee. Don't forget to flex your foot. Now, if you like, you can use your arms as a support. Just make sure that your hips stay square while you move up and down. Repeat this 12 to 16 times, then switch sides.
Our next exercise is in a side-lying position where you use the arm as a pillow so you have a solid foundation and can really focus on the alignment and the execution. So let me talk you through the setup. Lay down on your side, pull the bottom knee to a 90-degree angle, extend the top leg and flex both feet. Pull the top hip away from the rib cage and place the hand on the bottom knee for stability. Lift your top leg up and again check the alignment of the hips. Make sure the hips are stacked. Now lift and lower the top leg 12 to 16 times. This is a great position where you can work with all 3 variations: parallel, turned in and turned out.
If you have a resistance band, you will love this exercise, a hip thrust with added resistance. You can either do it on the floor or use a secured elevated surface like a bench, couch or chair. So lie on your back, place the resistance band right above the knee joint, and each time at the end of your hip thrust, open the knees and work against the resistance of the band. Repeat this 12 to 16 times.
For our last exercise for today, you will need an elevated surface like a bench for a fun challenge. A reverse frog with butterfly. So lay down on your stomach, bring the hip crease to the edge of the bench, pull the belly button in, extend the arms and hold on to the sides of the bench for support. Open the knees, bring the feet together and lift the legs to hip height. Now in this position, close and open the knees 12 to 16 times.